White people putting on blackface and black people putting on whiteface are very different things.
And that conversation turned to whether it is ever okay for a person of one race to dress up as another. A black person making their face lighter or a white person making theirs darker. It is not okay for that to be part of any costume.
There has never been a time in her 47 years that blackface has been acceptable.
Oh, hush up. I hate blackface. I just can't get this shit off. Besides, Whoopi done wrote everything I'm gonna say here tonight, so it's all right. Ain't that right?
Every time you turn on the TV, you're being programmed. A person or group of people spend a considerable amount of time to create content that attempts to get you to look at the world in a particular way. They're programming your perspective, your outlook, your response, and they're shaping your worldview. And as cliche as it may sound, they don't call it television programming for nothing. This programming becomes very effective when you turn your mind off and let the programmer do your thinking for you. That's the default setting of humanity, and that's a huge reason we have the division we see today. When you set out to consider what you're actually listening to with objectivity, the programming doesn't work. When you automatically entertain what's being said as legitimate, you literally live out the truth of that now popular NPC meme. Practically speaking, you become sort of a non-playable character who's been mentally developed by the media manipulators to regurgitate programmed responses. And usually, they're trigger responses of immediate offense. People get butthurt over the smallest things. And you gotta admit, it didn't used to be this way on such a grand scale. The NPC crowd is growing and getting more and more triggered with less and less input. Most people know by now what Megyn Kelly said about blackface. But let's analyze what she said, and let's look at mainstream media's response, which is the response they want to program you with, and let's see if we can peer behind the curtain and find out what's really going on here.
What is racist? Because truly, you do get in trouble if you are a white person who puts on blackface for Halloween, or a black person who puts on whiteface for Halloween. Like, back when I was a kid, that was okay as long as you were dressing up as like a character. There was a controversy on The Real Housewives of New York with Luann, as she dresses Diana Ross. And she made her skin look darker than it really is, and people said that that was racist. And I don't know, I thought, like, who doesn't love Diana Ross? She wants to look like Diana Ross for one day. I don't know how, like, that got racist on Halloween.
Okay, now here's the reaction CNN wants to program into the collective mindset.
White people putting on blackface and black people putting on whiteface are very different things. Kelly issued an apology to co-workers saying, "I realize now that such behavior is indeed wrong."
Actually, wait a second, Chris. Let's hear the apology come out of Megyn's own mouth.
I'm sorry. You may have heard that yesterday we had a discussion here about political correctness and Halloween costumes. And that conversation turned to whether it is ever okay for a person of one race to dress up as another.
Now, let's understand what's going on here, because a huge, huge deal is being made out of this. Programmers are using this media puppet named Megyn Kelly to lay down a mentality track that will end up implanting itself into the thought patterns of the collective, unthinking, unquestioning masses whose non-critical minds will play this program track to such an extent that this face painting action, and we literally are just talking about changing the color of a person's face, will become attached to the concept of morality itself.
For a person of one race to dress up as another. A black person making their face lighter or a white person making theirs darker to make a costume complete.
Now, she just made it really, really clear. This moral standard they're just making up on the fly goes for black humans who want to paint their faces white and for white humans who want to paint their faces black. And if we want to stay consistent with their constant droning about discrimination, maybe we should hold their feet to the fire for excluding red, yellow, and brown people. But I digress. Or do I?
I defended the idea, saying as long as it was respectful and part of a Halloween costume, it seemed okay. Well, I was wrong, and I am sorry.
Translation? The programmers want you to know that painting your face any color is wrong. But she's going to give us some context to make us feel really bad.
Given the history of blackface being used in awful ways by racists in this country, It is not okay for that to be part of any costume, Halloween or otherwise.
So their basis for wanting you to view blackface as wrong is because of the way racists used it in the past? I'm going to show you in a minute that they don't really believe it's wrong and that all this is being done in utter hypocrisy, but if we're going to stay consistent with their thinking, does anybody realize how ridiculous this could actually get? You know, the slaves picked cotton on slave master plantations, don't you? If you use cotton products, buddy, you're contributing to an industry that financially sustained slavery. You know, they burned crosses on the lawns of those blacks who were later lynched, right? You know that, don't you? So if you have an illuminated cross on your lawn at Christmas time, that just has so many racial overtones to it, it's just too obvious for me to turn a blind eye to. You could go on and on about things that offend you. Where would it ever stop? Kelly continues.
I have never been a PC kind of person.
But I sure am PC right now, because holy crap, I could literally lose my 3-year, $50 million contract with NBC. I better make this convincing.
But I do understand the value in being sensitive to our history, particularly on race and ethnicity. This past year has been so painful for many people of color. The country feels so divided, and I have no wish to add to that pain and offense.
Here's the thing. People are going to do things that are offensive. That's life. If you as an individual do or say something that's offensive to somebody else, you're going to have to deal with the fallout. But also, if you're a person who is easily offended and can't let things bounce off of you, life's going to be that much more difficult for you to navigate. But what's happening here is that they're programming a response. It's a sensitivity response. They want to create easily triggered people. Here's CNN's sensitivity response from Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon.
And I'm sorry, the history of blackface in our culture is abhorrent. The wound's too deep. I've never been a PC kind of person, but I understand that we need to be more sensitive in this day and age. D. Lemon.
Isn't it interesting how Lemon can virtue signal without even saying a word?
How much time do you have, Chris?
I don't know, but you're eating into it with your silence right now.
Because I got so much going on here. Listen, I know Megan. We do this. Sometimes you say stupid things when you're live. But I'm just going to be honest.
Okay, guys, Don's going to be honest for once. Go ahead, Don.
Megan is 47 years old. She's our age. There has never been a time in her 47 years that blackface has been acceptable.
Never, Don?
There has never been a time that blackface has been acceptable.
Somebody forgot to give Jimmy Kimmel that memo. In Kimmel's Comedy Central hit called The Man Show, which ran between 1999 and 2004, which is well within Megyn Kelly's 47 years, Kimmel didn't just say blackface was acceptable like Megan did. He put on blackface. And not just blackface, but an entire black costume. Oh, and he didn't stop there. Kimmel mocked former Utah Jazz basketball player Karl Malone and made fun of the way he talked in black dialect. Check it out.
Sometime at night, Karl Malone look up in the sky and say, "What the hell going on up there? Do UFO live on other planet, phoning home like E.T.? Karl Malone read on TV about white people getting deducted by aliens, sticking all kind of hell up their butt. And that's a damn thing."
There has never been a time in her 47 years that blackface has been acceptable.
Now, Karl Malone never seen no flying saucer himself, but if he do, that's gonna be a spooky time. That's why Karl Malone say government got to step up and give 102% to keeping them little green man off this here earth.
There has never been a time that blackface has been acceptable.
Because the day them dudes stick something up Karl Malone butt, that ain't gonna be no good time for nobody, especially Karl Malone butt.
Let's see what else Don has to tell us.
There were all white people on that panel. There were no African Americans, no people of color there to say, "Hey, Megan, not cool."
Not cool.
And that conversation turned to whether it is ever okay for a person of one race to dress up as another. A black person making their face lighter.
Oh, you mean like this guy? Let's see, what was his name again? Oh yeah, Eddie Murphy.
A lot of people talk about racial prejudice, but talk is cheap. So I decided to look into the problem myself.
Not cool.
To go underground and actually experience America as a white man.
Not cool.
Wait, Eddie, you sure you want to do that? I mean, look what's being said nowadays.
Not cool.
Eddie, this is not okay. Don't do it. People might get offended.
Not cool.
Now guys, this was back in the day when Saturday Night Live was actually kind of funny. By the way, NBC owns Saturday Night Live. It's the same people who are now saying that black or white face is not okay. In this skit, Eddie Murphy dresses up as a white guy and broad brush mocks all white people, saying that when white folks are alone, they give each other stuff. And when black people are around, they just play the game. Anyway, back to Don Lemon's virtue signaling.
I wonder how much diversity she has on her staff. I don't know, I'm not there, but I would imagine there is not a lot because people would have informed her.
So, if you have diversity on your staff, those diverse people would have informed Megyn Kelly that black or white face is not okay. Ever. Let's see, who could we refer to who does have a diverse staff? Hey, let's visit ultra-popular talk show host Howard Stern. His co-host Robin Quiver's black. Surely she's informed Howard that blackface is not okay, ever. Let's listen in.
And now an interview with Supreme Court nominee Judge Clarence Thomas. Here's Robin Quivers.
Good evening. Without further ado, I'd like to present the latest nominee to the United States Supreme Court, the Honorable Clarence Thomas.
Oonga boonga. Now, I'm just trying to improve my image. The black people are against me because they say that I'm not a real black man.
Now it should be obvious, but Howard is not just talking about blackface. He doesn't just have a black face on. He had makeup artists enlarge his lips and nose, and he's talking like a black guy. Like Clarence Thomas. And it doesn't look like Robin has a problem with it.
I want to say to them and to all you that I am proud to be here. I would like to say that I am cognizant of black people, and I would like to be the head marketing mark of the Supreme Judiciary Continuum.
I understood you to be a very conservative and well-educated...
Hey, what am this? The Montel Williams Show?
There has never been a time in her 47 years that blackface has been acceptable.
This is Howard Stern again impersonating a blackface Ted Danson, and Sherman Hemsley is playing the part of Whoopi Goldberg. And they're being interviewed by Robin, who's black. Just so we're clear here, Don.
Not cool.
Yeah, we know. It should be noted that Robin is a part of Stern's diversity team. The clicking sound you hear is in the original video.
Here they are, Hollywood's oddest couple, Ted Danson and Whoopi Goldberg, via satellite transmission.
Well, how are you doing there, Mrs. Robin Quivers? You know, Robin, Whoopi is a whole lot prettier after you drunk a couple of bottles of this here malt liquor.
Drink on, honey.
With every sip, you get better and better, baby.
I'll leave the link to this whole skit in the description for you, but notice that they pull out all the stops on racial stereotypes. There's fried chicken on the table, a bottle of malt liquor, a picture of Aunt Jemima, Stern has blackface on, he's talking like a black guy, and listen to some of the things they say.
Look, you two, don't you think you're going to ruin your career this way?
No. What's wrong with you? This here routine is showing people that we is not afraid to confront our racial stereotypes. Looky here. We is a nation of racists, and we must break through that barrier that we done constructed for ourselves. Can't you see that? Oh, hush up. I hate blackface. I just can't get this shit off. Besides, Whoopi done wrote everything I'm gonna say here tonight, so it's all right. Ain't that right, you smelly nigga?
I didn't write that.
Well, you is a smelly nigga.
Not cool.
And don't be racially offended, cause Whoopi done wrote them for me, okay? Here we go.
Ahead.
Hey, Robin, what does you call a black rocket scientist?
I don't know,
A
Ted.
nigga. Whoopi wrote it.
Not cool.
If what Megyn Kelly said set off Lemon and Cuomo, could you even imagine if they saw this? They might spontaneously combust. Obviously, Sherman Hemsley isn't offended by this, and neither is Robin Quivers. But this was back in 1994. Things were a whole lot different then. People were allowed to laugh at themselves more, I guess.
This is what people of the larger culture don't understand about racism and about privilege. I don't know of many black people who are trying to be white people for Halloween or dressing up as white people.
How about these two black guys who dressed up as white blonde girls? Not for Halloween, but for the movie called White Chicks.
It's the Beverly Hillbillies.
Squeeze me? Oh, no, you did.
This is what people of the larger culture don't understand about racism and about privilege. I don't know of many black people who are trying to be white people for Halloween or dressing up as white people.
This culture he's talking about is a program culture that has allowed itself to be hypersensitive. According to Kelly, Cuomo, Lemon, and mainstream media, Eddie Murphy mocking white people should have triggered and offended the hell out of me. But it didn't. These people go out of their way to virtue signal, race bait, pull the privilege card, wallow in double standards, serve up selective outrage, and engage in sensitivity programming to their NPC-created audience. You can take that road if you want, but personally, I think there's a more mature route. It's a route that's handled honestly and takes things with a sense of humor and a grain of salt. Listen to the words of the late P.D. Green as he talks to black-faced Howard Stern.
My guest tonight is a young man who I think that he's sharp. Of course, everybody don't agree with me. White people say he's gross. Black people say he's intelligent. I don't know.
How come I don't get no big chair?
I'm talking to Howard. What's your name?
Stern, Nipsey.
So now, you know,
I like when you rhyme. I like when you rhyme, Nipsey. Do that for me.
You look like Nipsey. Nipsey Russell.
Hey.
But hold it now. You know, ain't no cracker gonna take over now. You know, you got...
Petey's calling Stern a cracker, and as you'll see in a second, he invites Stern to call him a nigger, and everybody's having a good time. Nobody's getting bent out of shape, nobody's getting triggered, nobody's getting offended.
Now, the one thing about it already, see, you got a nigga working for you. You got a nigga working for you.
So this black man points to Robin Quivers and calls her a nigger. What do you think about that, Cuomo? How about you, Lemonhead?
Not cool.
But you don't run this nigga here, so cracker, you shut up.
I think the language that Petey used was intended to shock, and I think some of it was just the nature of his environment and upbringing.
Now this is a good and crazy cracker, so I'm gonna let him talk, but I want all the niggas at home to let this cracker educate you how ignorant crackers can do while I
where's the count?
Crackers how intelligent niggas can. Go ahead and rap, nigga.
Wait a second. How the name is Petey Green? That's a slave name.
Guys, all the cards are on the table here. They're talking about slang names for white people, black people, they're mocking slave names, and everybody's laughing and having fun. But today's virtue signaling race baiters want you to see this and be triggered. They want you to be offended, because when you get offended, you get weak, and then you stay divided, and the money masters behind the scenes can continue their thefts and their wars. Why? Because you're just a brain-dead zombie who can't think for himself. When you demand that it's never okay to do blackface or whiteface or say the N-word, you're telling people not to be themselves. You're telling people to censor themselves, walk on eggshells, and be offended.
Words have never hurt anyone. It's the action of a person that has the lasting effect.
On Saturdays, when you used to be on Saturdays, right, I would get up at 8 o'clock to watch a show. People say, well, what are you watching that guy for?
So what are you watching that nigga for?
What, the nigga?
Right, say it. Get it out.
Petey Green is keeping it real and is actually encouraging openness and genuineness. Fast forward 30 years and you've got this whole culture of easily offended snowflake pansy-ass NPCs running around with no original thoughts in their head and a whole lot of fake outrage to shovel out of their dark hearts. And how about this for some honesty for you?
I know that a cracker looks at all niggas as one. You understand? You look at Robin as a nigga like you look at me as a nigga. Now, you might take a little step another dimension and try to jive it off, but all crackers and all niggas have racism in them, including me. So we all got a little bit of racism in us. So you could be raised up in New York and heard them talk about niggas, and I was raised up in Washington and heard them talk about crackers. The racial thing is not what you and I are about. We just like people. I know that you like people.
So while CNN wants to focus on the shallow concept of skin color, while they continue to program their audience to be triggered, the greater issue is content of character. What kind of person are we dealing with here? Is this an honest person or a liar? Is this a giver or a thief? Is this a violent person or a peacemaker? Depth is what counts. Color? Not so much. The irony about mainstream media is that while they claim to condemn racism, they actually program racism into the minds of the collective for dishonest, divide and conquer objectives. As long as we refuse to think critically, as long as we refuse to question everything, as long as we continue to turn our minds off, we will continue to be divided. And that's exactly what these fakers want. If you guys get something out of my videos, support the channel on Patreon or PayPal. Or grab a highly offensive shirt from one of the most controversial shirt stores on the planet. And if you doubt that statement, take a look at the designs. I'm adding new designs every week, so check back often. And I do take requests. If I use your design idea, your name will be forever immortalized in the shirt store description. Subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up and share it, and join me on BitChute, DTube, Minds.com, Gab, and the new High Impact Flicks community Discord server. All those links are in the description below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.